there's anything that NASCAR fans love more than seeing their favorite driver win, it's talking trash about their least favorite driver. So let's see how bad your driver's doing so far this year.
And his name is John C.
NASCAR's been going on a generational run to start off 2024. Your driver might suck and so might the sanctioning body, but more than anyone, NASCAR as a sport is winning right now. Looking back, the only season that's had the same level of racing and drama was 2014. Ironically, also the last time the sport was in the last year of a TV contract. We've had great racing to witness, and photo finish after photo finish. It's not all sunshine and rainbows, but neither is this video. Every driver has had their share of mistakes, goofs, gaffes, and pain this season. So we're going to go through all 36 chartered entries in the NASCAR Cup Series. I'll be grading each driver on their raw speed, finishing ability, and on-track management. No one is immune from the racing gods. Everyone needs a good smiting every once in a while. Let's get the show started. There was a time when Justin Marks called Zane Smith the #1 overall draft pick in the sport. He's now a near weekly backmarker, given he isn't driving for the team he's under contract with, but is constantly outpaced by his mid-pack teammates. Every time there's a crash in front of him, he just seems like a deer in headlights and runs towards the car. Smith is a proven talent in the lower series, but God knows what's going on in that Trackhouse Spire Frankenstein garage. Meanwhile, the 71's been filled for next year by McDowell, so where does that leave Smith? Like Mark said earlier in the year, there's a lot of moving parts behind the scenes that we don't see, and he definitely has the deep pockets to make moves. I just want Zane to get his shit together. We are in year 3 of the Harrison Burton experiment, and I want to know what kind of crack the Wood brothers have been smoking. In all seriousness, it seemed like a good move at first, ditching a cocky and underfunded Matt Benedetto for a fresh-faced, mostly funded Burton. While his rookie year was to be expected in second-tier equipment, Burton only has 5 top 10s and 1 top 5 in almost 2.5 years as a Cup driver. He's still only 23 and his experience thus far has been inextricable, but it seems as if a Cole Custer treatment wouldn't hurt Burton's career. Not saying Burton isn't Cup-worthy, but he's far from his prime. High expectations for those 4 Xfinity wins. Send him back to languish in the lower series to redeem the family name.
On your left. On my left.
A few years ago, I would have been dunking on the 15 car like I was getting paid 6 figures with full benefits to do it. Don't get me wrong, Rick Ware isn't a contender for wins right now, but their alliance with RFK was the life preserver this team needed. It's good to see Kaz Grala finally getting a steady ride, but he's still only in the car for 25 races. And he's supposed to be competing for Rookie of the Year? Leave it to the alleged nepotistic abuser to get some seat time after a return that was long awaited by nobody. Grala has the talent to keep the car in one piece, but lack of consistent work might affect his ability to get a feel for the Cup car. At this point, Rick Ware might have a better time making the number 15 an all-star guest car like he did last year. Steps have been made, but there are still miles to go.
Hell yeah!
There were a lot of eyebrows raised when Haley signed with Rick Ware for 2024. Justin called it a lateral move, while many questioned that notion. Nonetheless, he's run pace with his old ride and had a couple of good runs. Don't mind that Coda DQ though, I'm sure that it won't hurt you in the long run. While Haley was looking to break necks in his snazzy new Walmart 51 Ford, he's been largely underwhelming outside of his top 10 at Darlington. That run was impressive for his equipment, and the new RFK alliance is supposed to be boosting Ware performance, but right now they're sitting in a similar points position to last year, and RFK still has trouble staying with the big dogs consistently. Rick Ware must choose his own destiny with what he's given. And please don't fuck with Haley's career.
Money talks, people.
This team still exists? Where the hell are they on track? No, literally, I barely see them on track every single week. I get it, it's the rotating driver car and you get different levels of talent, experience, and knowledge behind the wheel, but why, again, would you take a playoff caliber driver like AJ out of the car to drive an Xfinity full time? This team is a constant backmarker unless actual talent like AJ or SVG is behind the wheel. Why not dig into the lower series, start growing your roots further into the sport? Oh, there's rumors of selling? A Chevy team selling to a market where a Chevy key partner team is looking to buy a charter for their 3rd driver under contract. Name your price, Matt Kaulig. You are now god of the charter market. Make their wallets hurt.
You suck, you jackass!
Where do I start, honestly? Is it the continuation of mid to back of the pack runs? What about the record-tying 10 DNFs in the playoff era he had last season? Maybe it's that all 4 of his wins are under Mickey Mouse circumstances? Is it just that I'm constantly reminded my favorite driver has to share a garage with such inferior talent? No, it's gotta be because he's in the number 3 car, no other reason. Sarcasm aside, I don't mind that Dylan is in the 3 all that much. What I do mind is all the reasons I formerly listed. Full disclosure, I think Dylan will be great as an RCR exec and driving mentor for future generations. His knowledge and experiences is invaluable for upcoming superstars, so why not jump the gun? The RCR pipeline is ripe with talent in the lower series, but right now Dylan is a hairball clogging that pipe. And by God, I'm not a plumber.
Wait a minute! Who are you?
Well, the one-win wonder from Xfinity has risen back to the big leagues. Hendrick is impressive in his own right, pulling off 2 top 10 finishes at Talladega and Dover, showing his versatility. But one has to wonder the state of the war room at Kaulig. Missing the playoffs both years of the Gen 7, but stealing a playoff win only to send AJ back down to Xfinity? If he wanted it, then so be it, but if not, why send the best in-house driver you have back to the minor leagues full-time? Confusion aside, Hendrick has largely struggled in the beginning stretch of the year. Sitting 30th in points, he's going to need to win Daytona in August to make the playoffs. He has a teammate, but Kaulig's plate track dominance from Xfinity hasn't translated to Cup at all. Hendrick might be Kaulig's last hope at Cup success. I smell smoke in the Kaulig kitchen.
Look, a penny!
NASCAR's favorite stepchild has come out of the woodwork this season to declare his place in the playoff landscape, only to trip on a log and stumble on his way out. 4th place at Daytona, a couple mid-teens finishes, and a solid run at Vegas gave LaJoie early aspirations, but has since cooled off like a streaker in Antarctica. LaJoie called his shot before the season started, stating the number 7 would win a race and make the playoffs, and if he didn't, the season would be a quote-unquote failure. Look, I get Spire's been doing the slow burn build for the past half-decade, and LaJoie was a great piece to build around, but wins just aren't realistic for this team besides plate tracks right now, and we've only got Daytona before the playoffs. This team could start focusing on top 10s and top 15s and make big strides. Instead, LaJoie seems to have taken the Denny Hamlin win-or-nothing mentality, just not with the equipment to feasibly support it. Run your race and good finishes will come, but I'm starting to doubt LaJoie.
No, not without my study group.
Tony Stewart has finally spread himself too thin. 6 years ago, SHR had all 4 cars in the round of 8, and last year none of them won a race. Priest became Stewart's guy when he replaced Cole Custer in the 41 last year. So how did he fare? Besides a pole and stage win at Martinsville, everything outside of that was trash. I get you signed Priest as a reserve and Custer was sucking, but he turned right around with an Xfinity title. Not to mention you got study groups going on without Priest even knowing. Shows potential culture change, but also tells us who's on the chopping block at season's end. You're taking 4 fringe playoff drivers at best and playing Hunger Games with them. Only way to go from here is up. Can't go lower than the ground floor.
Punch like a fish.
King Superspeedway Merchant has had a rough start to the season so far. Didn't strike gold in the opening half of plate tracks like he did at Daytona last year. They just haven't replicated that same speed. 2 solid top 10s at Atlanta, Talladega, and a good run at Dover was impressive, but his other races have looked like his finish at Dover, putting him in an undesirable position midway through the regular season. It's getting tiring saying Daytona's your last real chance. Yeah, no shit. A lot of these guys see that as the only place to reasonably compete for a playoff spot, but for Stenhouse, it's the lifeline. With news of Kroger potentially bailing ship for JGR next year, 47 might be in more trouble than we think. Stenhouse did just sign a fresh 3-year extension, so performance is expected to improve. Brad Doherty craves more rings.
Nice work, rookie.
I honestly didn't know what to expect from the 77 this year. Last year, Ty Dillon put this team in a precarious position with their charter, which deems that NASCAR reserves the right to revoke a team's charter if they finish bottom 3 in owners' points 3 years in a row. Think of it as relegation, but instead of going to the lower division, you get banished to the Shadow Realm. Against all odds and fears, Hocevar hasn't just turned this team around, he's the best car of the Spire camp right now. I'd argue you should start centering Spire's operations around Hocevar long-term instead. He runs better on average and has more versatility as a top series driver. That being said, he's a rookie and he drives like one too. Bad habits die hard, Carson. He hasn't felt the hammer drop yet, but if he ruffles too many feathers, he might make a few enemies on his way to the top.
The brakes teed on the left, you're about to hit that car!
The Cup Series always has a perennial wrecker who is an easy name to poke fun at. A necessary evil, if you will. Nemechek may be the best talent to inherit this title in recent memory, but the gods have chosen him nonetheless. He doesn't have the most incidents on the year, but it really feels like he does. was. He's looked like a fringe playoff driver at times, but has otherwise looked like a rookie Ricky Stenhouse. A dumb move under Logano at Phoenix ruined the two-time champ's day. A few weeks later at Talladega, Nemechek commits attempted manslaughter on his own teammate. Obviously, it's a racing incident, but this has big implications for Legacy as a team now. He and his team have shown competitiveness, but haven't had the winning speed they likely need to make the playoffs. Not like you can have Jimmy play Superman anymore.
You're leaving. You're leaving me now? I need you.
I kept wondering why McDowell was mulling near the bottom third in points before I realized he has as many DNFs as he does top 10s. Last year, Larson had 8. Goes to show that DNFs don't matter all that much if you can run up front and win races. So how's the 34 doing? He's on pace for 12th, shattering the playoff era record. What should be the greatest season of McDowell's career has looked more like the nerd finally sitting with the jocks at lunch, only to have no idea what the fuck they're talking about. We've been talking about it long enough to know that this isn't just a front row problem, it's a Ford problem. Spreading yourself too thin as a manufacturer is a blueprint for either team dissolution or losing teams and drivers to your competition. You only hurt teams like front row when shit like this happens. Now you're losing McDowell at year's end to Spire of all teams? Personally, I think it's a good long-term move. McDowell is known to elevate lower-tier equipment. Just how many more years does he have left in the tank, though?
To be constantly in your shadow, constantly the overlooked one.
Todd Gilliland survived the front-row new driver curse that had axed the Cup career of many a driver before it. The 38 car was a death sentence for numerous years before Front Row won the 500 in 2021. The team has stayed consistent and moved forward over the years. Gilliland was even threatened with Zane Smith stealing his ride for a couple weeks last year, and Front Row ultimately chose Gilliland. Who has the higher ceiling is yet to be seen, but Front Row was criticized for letting Zane walk last year. All I'm saying is in the short term, it's paid off for the 38, getting a key partnership signed with Ford just before the season started. Despite this, Gilliland sits 22nd in points and McDowell isn't faring much better. They must have been bit by the Ford bug because their new fancy title has done jack shit other than a couple of poles and an almost win at Talladega. If the 38 wants to get in the playoff conversation, he'll have to run top 20 from pretty much here on out. May the racing gods permit you a playoff spot with a hasty first-round exit.
Oh, my back!
Before his injury, Jones had been the most vanilla driver in the field. A mean finish of 17.5 at the time was right in the mix with a couple playoff drivers, minus the finishes to back it up. I didn't expect much out of Legacy in their first year with Toyota, and honestly, they haven't been awful. However, something still isn't clicking. I think Jones' accident really put things into perspective for the team. Between Petty's legacy, Maury Gallagher's pockets, and Jimmy's competitiveness, this team should be right in the fight or at least competing for a playoff spot. The latter of which they have, just without much pressure. Jones was sitting just on the bubble before his injury, but full disclosure, Legacy is probably going to have to win to get one of their cars to the big dance.
Yeah, well, that was the point, Dingleberry.
There were a lot of questions and intrigue surrounding Stewart-Haas hiring Barry last year. Why not go steal a prime target eager for a cup ride from Chevy's pipeline? Seems like a brilliant move. Only thing is, his performance in Xfinity dropped after the SHR signing. Maybe Barry wasn't quite ripe enough for the picking. He is 33 as a rookie. Might as well be the Michael Penix of NASCAR. He played super sub for Hendrick and Legacy last year, so his cup experience is more than fellow Rookie of the Year competitors Zane Smith and Carson Hocevar, but outside short tracks, this team hasn't shown much speed at all. He turned a decent run at Darlington into a podium finish, so potential is there, and if Barry can make something of it, it'd be star potential. But now that SHR is rumored to be selling a good portion of the team, his future might come into question faster than expected. I just hope Rodney Childers doesn't get cut loose. That man is the last remnant of the old SHR, and even he seems outdated in today's Cup Series. Clock's ticking, Tony.
I'm a huge proponent of nepotism.
Penske's first true, in-house, born and bred Cup driver has turned into a stereotypical nepote, who's so far been a shell of what the two-car used to be. Sure, his rookie campaign saw a Daytona 500 win and a round of 12 playoff appearance, but outside of that, Cindric's been hot garbage. He's more aggressive than the average rookie and runs on par with Harrison Burton most weeks. This is supposed to be Penske's future? I know Cindric is good, he's up front at plate tracks and paces well at road courses, but sitting 20th in points with one finish better than 15th through 13 races in this strong of equipment? I get Ford is in panic mode right now, but Penske is the Ford team. Defending series champions apparently doesn't matter if you lay on the highway waiting for your competition to run you over. Maybe it wouldn't hurt to reopen that Xfinity team.
Stay off the internet.
Coming off a horrendous rookie campaign with Legacy, Noah Gragson was looking forward to 2024 by August. Despite a likely needed trip through sensitivity training, Gragson has rebounded incredibly well driving for a struggling SHR team. He isn't making waves like he did in Xfinity 2 years ago, but he's clearly looking to capitalize on the figure he once was. I'd say the 10 car is the top car out of Stewart-Haas this year, though that isn't much to brag about. If you ask me, drivers were told at the beginning of the year downsizing was happening and they've been fighting each other ever since. That's certainly one way to motivate the guys, Tony. Maybe try not to cheat early season so you have a better chance at curtain call. Gragson looks strong at points, but not strong enough to win a race. The crews will really have to get innovative at Stewart-Haas, just not like they have before.
You're my friend now. We're having soft tacos later.
Suarez came into this year on the hot seat more than almost anyone. Safe to say SVG has put some pressure on the 99. Nevertheless, Suarez posted his second career win at Atlanta in dramatic three-wide fashion. Justin Marks seemed confident in Daniel's abilities and speed both before and after Atlanta, but his comments after the race seemed a bit vague. I can't imagine a future where Daniel isn't a driver for Trackhouse. Note that Trackhouse is growing its presence in the sport, including partnerships with other teams. While the overall performance is hard to gauge, we do know they've got solid drivers under contract, and Suarez is one of said drivers, but right now lacks the consistency to be a playoff contender. I mean, that win is keeping him steady, but he still sits just outside the playoffs. Good thing he's got the win under his belt, because now he'll just have to show the sport what he's got come postseason. Showtime, Danny boy.
Voted most likely to suck eggs in high school.
Most recently crowned two-time champion has been fighting his odd year hangover into this even year, and that has me thinking two different ways. Number one, Joey Logano can suck it, and I hope he misses the playoffs. Number two, bias aside, Logano has 2 DNFs and has looked like the second best Ford at the second best Ford team. Only 3 top 10s and 1 top 5 just outside the cut line spells late season trouble for the 22 team if they can't get their act together. I know the yin of the even year dominance has been yanked by his odd year struggles for years, and it's become quite the meme, but it's beginning to look like the curse might be broken, just not in Logano's favor. I'm not going to worry too much about Logano's chances, but the lack of consistent speed should be worrying to his team. This is exactly how this team got eliminated in the first round of the playoffs last year, and if they're not careful, they could be in for another underwhelming campaign. Maybe 2026 is your year, bud.
Hate us because they ain't us.
They don't hate us because they hate us. They don't hate.
Last year's Cinderella story has proven his place in the playoff landscape, much to the chagrin of haters everywhere. Leading into this year, Bubba looked to keep his momentum rolling, and initially he did with back-to-back top 5s. Then reality hit him like a bad late race 23-11 pit stop. Statistically, Bubba is having a career year so far, but he's still the first one out of the playoffs at the moment. Of all drivers outside looking in, Bubba seems poised to take the biggest step forward. While we are heading into a good stretch for him, this season has proven to be more cutthroat than years past, and consolidation of those at the top has already taken up a large chunk of the playoff leaderboard. MJ's competitive nature is rearing its ferocious head once again, and the expectation is that both cars make decent postseason runs. Reddick's already locked in. Now Bubba needs to do the same.
And there's also no consistency.
One of the hottest drivers in Cup has finally shed his demons and the doubters with back-to-back Final Four appearances. Yet despite an early win at Phoenix, it's been hell for Bell rather than hell's bells. Unlike so many others, he's had race-winning speed, but also ranks 3rd in incidents and 2nd in DNFs. Inconsistent enough that he's the worst of the 4 Gibbs cars sitting outside the top 10 in points. I have no doubt Bell can make a deep run once again this year, but there are legitimate questions as to his on-track performance. After Coda, it seemed like Busch scared the living shit out of him, and he hasn't been the same top dog since. As a Busch fan, I would see Adam Stevens make sometimes questionable calls that would occasionally pay off, and I'm seeing a lot of the same strategy play with Bell, but I don't think it suits his driving style. Seabell loves clean air and staying up front, and he's not getting that out of his car right now. That win at Phoenix will be useful for November, he just has to make it back there first. Am I having a stroke? Chase Briscoe is now the longest tenured SHR driver, making him the de facto veteran of the quartet. He's also the only SHR driver to win a cup race, period. Remember in 2022 when we were saying Briscoe had a legit shot at the title when he made the round of 8? The 120-point penalty certainly didn't help last year, but even without it, Briscoe would have placed 23rd, a little over 100 points behind the cut line. That could have been internal team struggles, as even the revered Kevin Harvick wasn't able to catch a dub. While Briscoe fired off within contention, he's since been surpassed in performance by new teammate Noah Gragson. Briscoe sits just inside the cut line and has playoff potential, but SHR as a whole needs to take a step forward before they come close to competing in the postseason. Briscoe's already garnered a reputation for getting more squirrely than Scrat, looking for his acorn when the going gets tough. Gonna be hard to beat the allegations if your playoff hopes come down to late summer.
I can't take it anymore! I just want to...
I had hope which was partially satisfied halfway through the regular season last year. The rest of 2023 was a painful shot to the balls for us KFB fans. We were treated to excruciating mediocrity for the back half of the season, and Kyle will tell you the same. He's clearly unhappy with how he's been running this year, too. I think RCR's performance is on the rebound, but we're still yet to see improvement on the other side of the garage. Like I said, that RCR pipeline is ripe for the picking. You want to build a successful future? Pair a young driver with KFB and watch that team grow like a Minecraft tree hopped up on bone meal. Is a championship in the cards anytime soon? I doubt it, but it's hard to stop Kyle once he gets rowdy.
Prosper, Texas, which, by the way, has a population of 30,000.
The soft-spoken Texan came into this season looking to carry his red-hot momentum with him. While he hasn't struck gold like he did in rapid succession last summer, he has maintained and even upped his notorious consistency. A few intersparse middling finishes have been rounded out with 6 top 10s and 2 runner-ups, including his heart and record-breaking losses at Kansas and Darlington. The racing gods have made it their goal to not let Buescher prosper. Let's hope these races don't haunt the team for the rest of the season, because both of his runner-ups came at crucial playoff tracks, including Phoenix. If he has a couple of bad runs over the summer, though, it could alter his momentum late season, like he didn't win 3 of 5 races to end the regular season last year. Whatever the 17 has under the hood looks damn good on track. They just need to recapture the winning speed they had last season. Those 30,000 back home are counting on you, Christopher.
Oh, Brad Keselowski won this race.
Year 3 of RFK had a lot of hype surrounding it, and for good reason. Brad has assumed the role of hardened veteran, while Chris Buescher looks like Roush drivers of the mid-2000s. That being said, Ford being more than underwhelming his bogged-down performance. Yet despite this, RFK has emerged as the best team out of the Ford camp thus far. It's like being the fastest 3-legged cheetah on Earth. I was going to go on about how Brad couldn't get the monkey off his back, but right as I start to finalize the script, he redeems himself at Darlington. Never thought I'd be so happy to see Brad win a race, honestly. With RFK's win, Ford seems to have made leaps where their performance was otherwise lacking in the first half of the year. Now that they have this win, I think RFK and Brad are easily weekly contenders, but they're not immune to the inconsistency that once plagued them. Walk the line, Brad.
Do the watermelon crawl?
At this point in Chastain's career, we've come to expect the surprises he brings to the track. No more being startled by his race-winning speed, being shocked by a dive bomb move. The audience in the garage knows what to expect from the one car, for the most part. As much as Chastain's made his name and competes year in, year out, right now it seems like he's only good for about 2 wins a year. Because he's competitive almost everywhere we go, it's hard to tell where he'll shine the brightest, especially considering the top teams seem to be playing hungry hippos with wins. He's had good speed and runs this year, but that doesn't guarantee you wins or a good finishing spot even. I mean, hell, not a top 10 since Coda in March? Something's gotta give. It's been about a year since Rick Hendrick neutered Chastain, and personally, I think we'd all like to see the Busch Beast be unleashed on the pack.
Inhale the memes, exhale the memes.
At the start of this year, Bowman fans seemed like they were in a panic, and rightfully so. His back injury last year took him from the points leader to out of contention in 5 weeks, and eventually the remainder of the season. Bowman's multi-year deal looked like the security he needed, but he did everything in his power to loosen that security back up. Since Bristol, though, Bowman has shown remarkable consistency, with his 2 non-top 10 finishes since then being a 17th at Richmond, where he got boned on strategy, and a 37th at Texas, where he got NEMA-checked into a DNF. Other than these 2, Bowman had the potential for 9 straight top 10 finishes. Despite blazing consistency, Bowman is still the only winless Hendrick driver and has only led 6 laps all season. Mind you, he only has 1 win in the Gen 7, dating back to the Spring Vegas race in 2022. Bowman has speed, but whether or not it's on par with the rest of his teammates is yet to be seen. We patiently await the return of the showman.
Do you honestly think you're fucking funny? Seriously, you're an ugly little...
Mr. Defending Champ would like a word over the radio. As a matter of fact, he'll give you all the words over the radio. Early on, it seemed like he was on track to take the points lead and run with it, scoring 3 top 5s in the first 4 races. He then remembered he was driving a Ford in 2024 and only has 2 top 10s since. I don't really think it's a Blaney problem, honestly, because he's been carrying the banner most of the season so far. The The problem is that RFK seemingly has things figured out while Penske is struggling to put whole races together. I'm almost certain Blaney makes the playoffs, but both his teammates are right on the edge or worse right now. Maybe the captain's too busy on his IndyCar problems that the Cup team has suffered as sacrifice. Whatever, I'm sure we'll get some bullshit at Indy later since Roger owns the place. I just don't want another Penske car winning it this year.
Make sure Dash does his homework.
Ty Gibbs got so pissed at Joey Logano between the end of last season and the Clash that he completely forgot what a sophomore slump was. The way that veterans at the time turned Logano into who he is now is exactly what Joey is doing to Ty. As soon as that 54 car wins a race, he's going to have lethal confidence, and I can honestly say I'm scared. This is someone who's gone toe-to-toe with and beaten champions of the sport, and he's barely legal to drink. He sits 7th in points, but has also been unable to put together a full race for a win. We know it's coming, but the longer it waits to happen, the more pressure closes in on Gibbs. Right now, he's cruising to a solid playoff run, but he's got to start winning races with the kind of equipment he's got. Time to make Grandpa proud.
It's me, Mario!
I feel like this is the year we've expected from Reddick since he jumped to Cup. A prodigy so filled with promise he can elevate any team he drives for to championship caliber, which is why he left RCR in such awkward fashion. Reddick has been a massive boost for 2311 in his tenure so far, boasting 3 wins across 1.5 seasons and a deep playoff run in his first stint. So far this year, he won a crazy Talladega finish and had winning speed at both Vegas and Darlington. The thing is, Reddick reminds me of a young Kyle Busch, just minus the temper. Wicked fast speed and is fit to drive this generation car, but if he keeps making moves like Darlington, he'll have few friends come playoff time. Reddick has 4 top 5s, but also 4 finishes of 29th or worse, so while the ceiling is really high, the fall to the floor could be brutal.
Let's go, computer!
There's a new boy wonder in town, and the NASCAR fan base is starting to get sick of him like they did with Gordon in the 90s. An admittedly underwhelming Daytona 500 win was followed by dominance at COTA and good timing at Martinsville, allowing Byron to assert a level of reverence on the rest of the field. The thing is, nobody else really gave a shit. Hamlin matched his win total a few weeks later, Larson took over as the consensus #1 Hendrick driver, and he's even being outpaced by his other teammates at times. Byron doesn't even have any stage wins this year. Not saying stage wins are a be-all end-all, but it makes his 3 wins less convincing than Larson's 2 plus 7 stage wins. On top of that, being more aggressive for wins may come back to bite him. A couple times this season, Byron's pushed the issue, caused problems, but somehow ducked responsibility. Pissing off your future brother-in-law at work isn't ideal, Bill. Computer Boy's getting cocky, but he might be catching his comeuppance soon if he's not careful.
Tell me where my favorite child is.
NASCAR's Golden Boy is back, and so are ratings, baby. In all seriousness, Elliott's win at Texas was a much-needed reassurance for the 2020 champ. A winless 2023 after a Final Four appearance the year before raised some alarms in the Elliott camp, and best believe the haters were reveling in Georgian tears. Nonetheless, Elliott has emerged as a legit contender for wins and a deep playoff run with his dazzling 9.84 mean finish, best of all Cup drivers. While he definitely hasn't looked like the fastest car on track, he's kept the car in near perfect shape all year and finishes stronger than his more aggressive counterparts. What's more is that the summer stretch of tracks favors Chase's driving style and recent history in the Gen 7. The most important aspect of his driving persona, though, is his confidence. Elliott is dangerous when he's running up front and scoring lots of points. Fans have been complaining of lurking Larson's shadow since 2021, and rightfully so. But Chase has to make his own destiny. He's got the power and ability to do it. Just please stop the bad man.
I mean, people even say I stole the show.
All In to Win is shaping out to be a momentous attempt for Hamlin to finally capture his first Cup. Denny's week-to-week performance is tracing shades of 1992 Davey Allison, which is both awe-inspiring and frightening in the modern age of the sport. Fact of the matter is, Hamlin has winning speed damn near every week, but likes to test his luck a bit too much sometimes. Not saying he doesn't have the right to, but his actions may be detrimental to his chance of success at beating the competition in the postseason. Do we have to talk about the Richmond win? You know what? I want to see Denny test NASCAR. Maybe slight his teammate. He might eventually catch heat from the garage and either ride that hate as momentum to Phoenix, or let it get to him at the wrong time and crumble. I don't know if I'm all in this year, but I know Denny is his team on. If that translates to a strong home stretch, I wouldn't be surprised if he's lifting the Bill France Cup at year's end. Now watch him invent a new way to break my friends' hearts.
I'm tired of this, Grandpa.
That's too damn bad!
I don't know how to feel about Truex this year. I think just sympathetic, honestly. Man is only doing 1-year deals from here on out, has winning speed as often as his teammates, has the second best mean finish of all drivers, and before Darlington held the lowest mean finish for nearly the entire season, all the on-track success, and he just can't get to victory lane. I want to say we'll see him back in victory lane soon, but I don't know how soon we're talking. The racing gods will tease him until he sheds whatever the fuck is clouding his mind. Seated 6th in the playoffs going into the All-Star break with no wins is impressive to say the least. But if it's another championship Martin desires, he'll need to straighten himself out. Can't help but wonder what lies after the season for Truex in what seems to be the twilight of his career. Get the man a win and then let him do his thing, coach. You know the drill.
What did the bad man do wrong?
It pains me to inform you that Kyle Larson is having possibly the greatest and simultaneously scariest season of his already illustrious career. In his dominant 10-win 2021 title, Larson only won a single race in the first 14, while looking good enough to win almost every week. This year, he's won 2 of the first 13 races and looks even faster and more consistent in a car that is designed to deliver more parity. The NASCAR world trembles with fear at the bad man's wrath. God-given ability aside, Larson does have his Achilles heel. His unbridled speed leads into his wild style of racing, which leads to wrecks, obviously. Look, at this point, he can basically afford to wreck a time or two, but one DNF at Darlington shortened up the field to him by about a race, so he can't have problems like last year. Yes, he made the Final Four, but 8 DNFs is not sustainable, and was second worst in the series only to Austin Dillon. If Larson isn't careful, he might choke again like the last 2 years. Dread it, run from it, the bad man is inevitable. Now that we got the dirty business out of the way, let's shift focus to the postseason, seeing as we're halfway there. Things have been picking up near the cut line. Bell inching his way back up the playoff leaderboard has helped return things to normal a little, but both he and Suarez being lower in points have jumbled the playoff field for the time being. It also doesn't help that 10th place is separated from 16th by only 42 points. Meanwhile, Suarez remains locked in the playoffs but outside the cut line. God forbid we see 9 more winners and Danny Boy or someone else gets absolutely fucked by the system. Seems as if the competitive drop-off is somewhere around 18th place after Joey Logano, who's truly made the most of a mediocre season thus far. Logano has shown that he has the ability to point his way into the playoffs, much like everyone above him. Everyone below him, however, is scrapping for and bleeding points like it's goddamn Fight Club. Jones' injury further blew up the back half of the field, and everyone there is now mud wrestling under a circus tent. 19th through 29th are only separated by 52 points, so it is quite literally a free-for-all the next couple weeks before things get sorted out. That is, if they get sorted out. Everything we've seen so far has told us that we can expect dramatic racing, but we know that chaos lurks around every corner. The next 13 races vary in layout, length, and difficulty, but all provide opportunity for someone to make their name known before the playoffs. A 2-week break for NBC hosting the Olympics should give the teams a much-needed break heading into the postseason. But if you're behind the 8 ball, it might just give you more time to spiral. Glory and adoration await those who traverse the tumultuous landscape ahead. Only time and the racing gods will tell who has the gumption and mental toughness to grind their way to Phoenix. May your driver be spared in the purge of the postseason. Godspeed, Jensen. Until next time, pull those belts tight, race hell, Praisdale, and happy racing.
Heads up!